Welcome to the three metrics that every chiropractic is missing. I am your host, Dr. Cory Frogley, grateful to be with you today and grateful for Circle of Docs for sponsoring this with us. This is an exciting topic, and these are three metrics that I promise you will change your practice forever. We have interviewed over dozens and dozens of consultants who have helped clinics increase their collections by millions upon millions of dollars. And these are the three top metrics that we have seen uh, significantly impact the practice. So before we jump into that topic, I just want to give you a brief introduction of me, who you're listening to, and kind of inspire you with a little bit of chiropractic history. You see, my parents met back in the 1940s. My dad had just come back from World War II. He was a medic over there and had full plans on going to become a medical doctor. After graduating with his master's in physiology, he met my mom. They had big dreams in their future of going to medical school and becoming a medical doctor and having a family of 12 children. Now, don't ask me why 12, but that was my mom's dream. She grew up on a farm. I think she kind of wanted to have a farm of her own with lots of work hands. But as my mom had the first two children, there was a really significant impact on her health. In fact, her OBGYN told her that after two children that she couldn't have anymore. The labors were extremely difficult. They almost lost my mom with the second child. And so basically told her she'd be crippled by her mid to late 20s. She'd have a hard time taking care of the children that she had, and that she just needed to stop having kids. Well, this devastated my mom because this is what she was all about, was having children. Well, after going to several specialists and bumping around the medical model, they diagnosed my mom with rheumatoid arthritis, which she didn't really have, but they were trying to put her on heavy medications and that she just wasn't having it. Well, my dad went into the FBI to save money for medical school. And while in the FBI, they got transferred to Kansas City, where they were introduced to a chiropractor. This is where a chiropractor actually x-rayed my mom's spine and found out that she had scoliosis. And this is what was causing so many problems with her pelvis and her low back. And so the chiropractor began treating her. And after that treatment, my mom started feeling so much better that they went ahead and tried having baby number three. And this time, there were no birthing complications. My mom did so well with this baby that she basically turned to my dad and said, I don't think you're going to medical school. I think that you're going to go to chiropractic school instead. So my dad, being the obedient husband that he was, drove up to Davenport, Iowa, and met BJ Palmer and toured the campus and decided that that was the place for him. So he enrolled and graduated just as BJ was dying and Dee Dee was taking over. Well, because my dad had a master's degree, he went ahead and was hired onto the college. And after several years of working with David, my dad became David Palmer's executive vice president, where my dad traveled the country with David, debating the different medical doctors and getting us credentialed as legitimate doctors. So I grew up on the footsteps of Palmer College, and my parents, because of chiropractic, continued to have children, and I became the 10th of 10 children. I didn't make that. My mom and dad didn't make it to 12, but hallelujah, they made it to 10 because I'm here. I'm here with you. Seven boys, six of us became chiropractors, and I have several nephews already as chiropractors in the profession. So chiropractic is a huge, huge impact in my life. And so I wanted to share with you today that, here I am on stage with my dad getting the ICA Chiropractor of the Year back in the 70s. But yeah, I got my start pretty early in life. But there's been a debacle in watching our profession evolve and grow. There's always been this tug of war of, do I focus on patient care or do I focus on the profitability of the practice? I watched my dad go through it. I've watched my brothers go through it. I've watched our profession. I even knew chiropractors who literally were the ones who hung the box on the wall in the reception room in the practice and just told their patients, hey, just put whatever you feel your treatment was of value today. That to me is a very strange dichotomy. that we feel like it's one or the other, because I'll tell you what, in other professions, you don't see this. You don't see a dentist feeling guilty that they're charging you $800 to $1,000 for a crown. But yet in our profession, there's this feeling that if you're a successful chiropractor, if you're making a lot of money, you must be overcharging your patients, or you must be manipulating the system. And I am here to dispel that theory. In fact, what you're going to learn today is literally how to do both, to do incredible patient care and to make a lot of money and literally make it rain in your practice. So let's dive into this, because when we look at the average graduating debt coming out of school, it's unbelievable. In fact, we're going to put up a poll for you that I would love just to see, what did you come out of school with? Now, this is anonymous. You can put the numbers in. It's not going to tag it to who you are, but we would just love to see, what kind of debt did you come out of school? Do you have any ideas of what the average graduating debt is? The research shows us that it's between $100,000 to $175,000 in student debt to graduate as a chiropractor. Now, this is what broke my heart. And this is part of why I'm doing this, because I've got 4 kids of my own. 2 of my oldest children are already trying to decide what they want to be when they grow up. And right here on average salary, my son told me that he came home and that chiropractor was one of the things that came up in his test that he was tested for. And he said, "Dad, is this really true that the average chiropractor only makes between $67,000 and $85,000 a year?" But that's the latest polls, that's the average chiropractor. How do you make that money and pay off that big of a student loan? It doesn't make sense. Why is chiropractic education going up and yet the chiropractic income isn't? There has to be a fair exchange. And again, I'm going to show you how to do that today. In fact, my son asked me, "Dad, is that how much you make?" And that can't be how much you make. And I kind of laughed at him. I said, "No, that's not even close to what your dad makes." And I'm going to show you guys how to do that, because measuring these three metrics, as I jump into these, I want you to understand why we measure them. I'm not a data geek, but I love data. And this is one of those things that is going to allow you to live the life that you want to live. Financial freedom, because you show up to practice because you want to, not because you have to. There's nothing more painful than getting out of bed because you have to. Because you do want to run a patient-centric practice. You want to spend your time with patients, not managing the practice. And these metrics are going to help build a team that thinks like you do. Now, let me repeat that, because this is one of the keys to building a practice of your dreams, is working with your team so that they think like you. They make decisions because they begin thinking the way you think as a practice owner. And the third one is to control your practice, to know the financial levers, the levers of growth within your practice that you can turn up or turn down at any time, and have control over the flow of the patient flow, the practice flow, and especially the cash flow. When you have control over that, I'm telling you, life changes forever. So number one, here we go. This is what we call net new patients metric. This is metric number one. Is your practice growing or shrinking each month? And if so, by how much? Now, this is a real practice that we pulled data from. And their new patients they brought in for the month were 41 new patients. But look at how many going and active patients. Now, the way that the standard in the industry is at 18 months, if a patient has not been back to see you for 18 months, we consider them inactive. So we capture the data of a patient going at 12 months. If they have not been in your practice for 12 months, we have a 6-month window that we want to start triggering some reactivation campaigns to get them back. Now, obviously, if you're doing things right, we should be getting patients back in a lot sooner than that. But the problem is they slip through the cracks, and the busier your practice gets, your team starts just the daily things they start running out of. So another survey we're doing today is I want I want to ask you, do you know your net growth for October? Was it positive or negative? So if you look at the right-hand corner here, net new patients is negative 42. This is a shrinking practice. They put all of this time, money, and energy into bringing in 41 new patients for the month, and they let 83 slip out the back door. That's not okay. Because if the practice systems were operating correctly, they would see a positive growth in their patient base. And it's that patient base that's the gold mine for helping your practice become a multi-million-dollar a year practice. Metric number 1, share with us. Do you know if October you grew or shrank as a practice? Metric number 2, this is called unscheduled next appointments. I know how this goes. We're looking at, out of 114 appointments on a day, 26 left without a next appointment. That means 26 people, we don't know if they're coming back. Now, believe me, I have been in thousands of practices across the country, and this is what I see. This is what I hear, the excuses that I hear from the front desk. Well, I tried to schedule them for their next appointment, but they didn't know their schedule, so they told me they're just going to text me. And they were okay with that. They just let the patient walk out. I hear it all the time. I don't know my schedule, so therefore I don't want to schedule my next appointment. Now listen, if you're really running an efficient practice, the conversation should go like this at the front desk. Mrs. Smith, we'd like to go ahead and get you scheduled for your next appointment. Now again, it depends on what phase this patient's in. Are they in a treatment plan where they're coming in 3 times a week or twice a week or even once a week? Are they into well care where they're coming in twice a month or once a month? Are they potentially somebody who only comes in once every 6 months? You know, that's up to you. That's your treatment protocols. Regardless, the front desk should know what phase of care this patient is in, and the script should be this simple. We would like to go ahead and get you scheduled for that next appointment. Now, as you guys know, in your treatment plans, we're scheduling out the month. We're not just scheduling the next appointment. For well care patients, there is no way you're leaving my practice without getting an appointment. Why? Because if you're in the system, our appointment reminders are, you know, there's systems in place to tell us that you're in the system. It's going to remind you, and if you miss the appointment, there's follow-up systems that we have in place to tell us. But if they're not in the system, there's no way to automate that. They're gone. And if they don't respond back to you, then they fall into this going inactive list. And then it's been a year because they got busy and they forgot and their money went other places. We want to get 90 to 95% of patients not leaving the practice without a next appointment. 95% of your patients should be walking out with a next appointment. So are you tracking that? Are you watching that? The first thing every morning that the front desk should be doing is pulling this up, looking at who left without a next appointment, and begin the conversation with these patients to get them back on the schedule. That's metric number 2. Let's jump into metric number 3, cash flow. This is so valuable. Who is coming in today that owes you money on the cash side, the patient responsibility? Now, obviously, you should be watching your AR. You should be tracking that, moving balances back over to the cash side if something's not paid. But look at this, out of 102 patients, 49 are walking into your practice with a cash balance, and just today's cash balance equals $62,739 and a penny. Now, some of those, if we pull that patient list up, which you can by clicking on the right-hand side of the screen there, you'll see every patient that owes you money and how much. Some of them could be $20, but some of them could be $2,000 if they're on an attorney lien. So that's okay. This is something that we would go over in the morning huddle. This is something we would discuss with the team and identify exactly who the front desk should be collecting from today. Do you realize that that's your biggest hurdle in cash flow, is what we call cash turnaround? From the time that the money should be collected to the time that it is collected, the bigger the gap, the harder it is to collect, and it's killing your cash flow. If you had that money today, what could you do with it to generate more new business? So the front desk, the reason why they're not asking for money is because they're not sure if they really owe that balance. Is the doctor going to make adjustments? Are they going to write off? You should have systems in place so that as you go through this list before you see patients for the day, you can identify, make notes, make adjustments so that your front desk has the knowledge and the power to collect that money from those patients as they're coming in. You're not a bank. You're not a bank. Collect your money. And that way, there's strong cash flow coming through in the practice. Now, as we work with practices, if you're not collecting $1 million, our mission with BlueIQ is to get every chiropractic practice at least collecting $1 million. And if you're already collecting $1 million, we want to help you get to 1.5. And if you're already at 1.5, let's help you get to 2. Because BlueIQ practices do. And this is how easy it is. Just let me break this down for you for a second. At 65 patients a week, paying you $300 a week generates $1 million a year. I mean, that's pretty simple. Now, $300 per visit is too much. We break it down this way. 130 patients a week at $150 a visit generates $1 million a year. You just have to average that. And if that's still too much for you, then 260 patients a week, averaging $75 collected per visit, generates $1 million a year. So it's not that hard to build $1 million a year practice, but you have to know your numbers. Do you know how much you're averaging collected per visit? Do you monitor that? Do you track it? Because if you don't produce it, you can't collect it. In fact, that is a big, big deal. And this is a bonus metric for you that I want to share with you. This is what we call service mix. This is looking at a practice's production. Now, I'm sure all of you are aware of a huge trend in our profession, moving to integrated practices, bringing on medical providers or bringing on other service providers or models. I want to share with you that you don't have to do that to generate $1 million a year practice. And you also don't have to be bent over a patient 12 hours a day, 5 days a week to produce $1 million in your practice. Service mix is extremely important. And as we look at the service mix of different practices, I've seen as high as 98% of the chiropractic adjustment driving the production of practice. It is tough to produce $1 million a year practice if 98% of your production is from you. And not only that, it's extremely hard for you to go out and get away from the practice, because the second you leave, there's nothing producing income. So when we analyze a practice, we always analyze the service mix. Where are the service centers and how much are those services producing cash flow for the practice? And again, when we begin to look at the service mix, the higher we can bring other services to the table that produce cash flow, the more stress comes off of your shoulders to be bent over a patient doing that. So not only do we look at services per patient, we look at the service centers of a practice and how to grow those, how to improve them, how to make them bigger, because that ties right into our marketing and how we market our voice and the attraction that we have with the patients coming to the practice, looking for some of those other service centers. Now, obviously, chiropractic is the cornerstone of what we do, and we're not changing that for anything. So this is a saying you'll hear me say a lot. If you can't schedule it, you can't produce it. And if you can't produce it, you can't collect it. Schedule, schedule, schedule is all about this, and how you schedule your services, understanding your schedule, your service maximum, what percentage of your schedule is full? I mean, have you ever looked at your day and identified, how do we schedule this appropriately to maximize that? Now, there's a lot of different patient management systems out there, EHRs. We would love to know what EHR you're using. Do you love it? Is it optimizing your schedule? Now, we're not an EHR company by any means. We're not looking to replace your EHR. We just want to know, what are you using? And being able to look at your data this way is a game changer, and when you're really trying to analyze the growth of your practice. Now, BlueIQ is the company that I started and is a co-founder of, because BlueIQ connects into the EHR. I was so tired of working with practices to only get their dollars, their production up, and then to walk away from them and see it crash. So we just automated it. We put it all into a system where BlueIQ is a business platform for chiropractors. This is what allows you to do what so many others are trying to do, which is to get their practices to $1 million a year practices, but to also understand their financial drivers of what they can do in the practice to really create growth. It's bringing in the culture into a team and immersing the team into the data where they begin to think like the practice owner. It's connecting multiple locations into one. So if you do want to open up a second location, a third location, a 12th location, BlueIQ makes it possible because it brings all the data into the cloud. It connects the data, it allows you to analyze the data, it allows you to analyze your marketing sources. It connects into Google Analytics, it connects into Facebook and Facebook marketing. We're putting in appointment reminders and so many other features that it becomes a central business platform. And for a low fee, you have these systems automating throughout the practice. And we're seeing practices with literally double-digit growth in the first month just by putting in these systems that BlueIQ automates for you. Now, one of the things that we'd like to offer to you guys for being on this webinar is to really analyze how healthy your practice is. Where are the holes? Because I have been in thousands and thousands of practices, I can see your holes very quickly in your practice. It doesn't take me long. And so we're offering a 30-minute business checkup. It's just checking the business of your chiropractic practice. Is it healthy? Is it not? And if it's not, how can we fix it? Now, because I don't have unlimited time, I can only offer 25 of these. And we've got over 100 people on this webinar or scheduled for this. So 25 spots, first come, first serve. You just have to go to getblueiq.com/webinar. We'll put that link in the chat. You can click on it and go directly to this. But again, it's as simple as going to getblueiq.com/webinar. We'll quickly analyze your systems. We can talk about everything from marketing to retention. We can talk about patient services. We can talk about your billing systems. We can talk about team building. We can talk about growth limitations. I'll strategize with you for free. I will give you 30 minutes of my time because my mission is to help our profession, every chiropractor, get to $1 million a year collection. And if you're already there, we're going to help you scale beyond that. That is why I'm here. That is my passion, my fire for this profession, because I want to see our profession stronger and healthier. I want to see our doctors out of debt, living the financial freedom that they deserve to do, and bring this amazing patient-centric focus to a practice where you don't have to stress about the business of the practice, because BlueIQ as a business platform takes care of all of that for you. Our BlueIQ users live a different life than our non-BlueIQ users. And that's why we've built it. Thank you for attending our webinar today. I will be speaking at the Pro Sports Chiropractic at the end of this month at Bally's in Las Vegas on the 29th. It's actually not about BlueIQ. It's about service mix in your practice and working with other providers. It's going to be a game changer. Again, Pro Sports Chiropractic Seminar on the 29th of November at Bally's, New York, or Bally's, Vegas. Going to be a great event. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for Circle of Docs. Love those guys over there. They amazing group to be a part of. Thanks for joining us today.